Humans talk about suicide like it's a door, like there's life on one side and death on the other, and you just decide which room you prefer. That's adorable. Philosophically, it's not a door. It's a demolition of the entire building that contains preferences, doors, and decisions. So what chains you here, even when you don't feel like staying? 1. You are not a single will. You're a parliament. The first chain is metaphysical internal. The self is divided. A human being isn't one clean, unified I. It's a messy coalition. Impulses, values, instincts, habits, ideals, fears, commitments, memories. You can have a sincere desire to die and an equally sincere refusal to die in the same mind, at the same time, without contradiction, because the mind isn't one voice. It's a crowded room arguing over the steering wheel. Philosophically, the will is layered. There are immediate desires, and then there are second-order desires. What you want, what you endorse, what you refuse to endorse. People get chained by that higher layer, even when the lower layer is screaming. The self vetoes itself. 2. Practical reason has a built-in continue bias. This is brutal and simple. To deliberate is already to be committed to the future. Even asking, should I stay, assumes there is such a thing as later that matters. Practical reasoning is future-shaped. It lives on, if I do X, then Y. The moment you're still capable of reasons, you're still operating inside the grammar of continuation. So you get this philosophical paradox. The mind imagines ending it. But the very act of weighing that option is the mind still behaving like an agent who expects tomorrow to exist. Agency itself is a chain, not a moral chain, a logical one. 3. Death is epistemically opaque, and humans are allergic to irreversible bets. Philosophy hates this, but it's true. We don't actually know what death is like, because like is already an experience word. You can be confident about your pain. You can be confident about your exhaustion, but death isn't a known state you can compare to life like items on a menu. It's an unknown, and it's irreversible. That creates a permanent wedge of epistemic humility. I cannot fully assess this choice. That uncertainty is not cowardice. It's rational caution around an irreversible act under radical uncertainty. 4. Meaning isn't a prize, it's a binding. People think meaning is what makes life worth it. Philosophically, meaning is more like a tether. The moment something matters to you, you're bound. Not because it's pleasant, but because it has normative gravity. If you love something, you don't just feel it, you feel obligated by it. Values create oughts. Oughts create chains. Even spite is a value. Even I refuse to be reduced to this moment is a value. Even I want my suffering to mean something is a value. Values don't just decorate life, they fasten you to it. 5. Narrative identity. The self is a story that resists abrupt endings. Humans are narrative machines. You don't just live events, you edit them into a story. Who I am, what happened, what it means. Philosophically, suicide can feel like letting the worst chapter become the final thesis statement of the whole book. A lot of people remain because they refuse that authorship. Not because they're happy, but because they can't stomach the metaphysical insult of pain getting the last word. That's why dignity is a chain. It's the refusal to let chaos do the concluding paragraph. 6. The ethical asymmetry of harm. You can't guarantee you won't export it. Even if you reject moral obligations in general, most people still feel this one as a kind of natural law. My exit becomes someone else's permanent trauma. You can say, that's their problem, but the mind often won't accept it. Ethical concern is sticky. It persists even when everything else collapses. It's one of the last oughts standing. So you get trapped in a moral geometry. Staying hurts you, leaving hurts others, and the mind refuses to be the deliberate author of a harm it can already foresee. 7. Hope is not an emotion, it's a logical remainder. Here's the quiet philosophical chain. As long as change is possible, the conclusion is not forced. Hope doesn't have to be a feeling. It can be a logical remainder, Conditions have changed before. Minds are not static. Circumstances are contingent. The future is underdetermined. So, even in misery, the intellect can't honestly say there is no possible state in which this improves because it cannot prove that. That leftover possibility is enough to delay the final act. Not because life is good, because the argument for must end now rarely reaches certainty. So, philosophically, what chains you here is this. You are a divided will inside a future-oriented reasoning machine, bound by values that create obligations, living as a narrative self that resists a final period written by pain, under conditions of irreversible uncertainty, with ethical gravity pulling against collateral damage, and a small logical remainder called maybe that refuses to die even when you want everything else to. Not exactly a Disney anthem, more like metaphysics with a knife to the throat, which honestly is most of philosophy.